शलाकया मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाध्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्पद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिध्वंसोतिदादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता प्रेमानंद पाठाय परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरुन् मद महाधन मन निस्तारक मन भाग्य मन आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीचो से ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्पुरः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। शृण्वतां स्वकतः कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनम् हृदयन्तस्त्व भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Hare Krishna. So nice to see all of you. Thank you so much for joining. Today is Shivratri, so your obeisances to Lord Shiva. And how Lord Shiva is actually the protector of the Dham. We pray to Lord Shiva that he can actually grant us entrance into the abode of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Right. Okay, so our plan today is we'll start off with a few reflections, and maybe you can share. Again, let's go and one specific instance from the first canto that is your meditation, so you can share that. And then I want to do a 5 minutes overview of canto one. Okay, full canto one in like 5 to 7 minutes. So one student asked me to do that. So how are the chapters related? Okay, and then we will do overview of canto two, right? And I'll say how the chapters are related, and then we'll start off with the first chapter of canto two. So we'll see how many verses we can do today. But the first few verses are very, very important. So we'll spend a little time on the first few verses of Canto 2, Chapter 1. Okay. So let's start off. Anyone would like to share any specific instances in Canto 1, which is your meditation? And a few of you shared last time, but can we see if someone who did not share last time would like to start? Gopinath Prabhu would like to start?
Yeah, I think the one, there are many interesting and many pastimes and many incidents which are very important and they touch everybody's heart. But I think one that struck me was this whole thing about Vyasadeva, being despondent, and he was feeling this, even after writing so many Vedas. And then Narad Muni comes and describes that he's not glorified Lord enough. So that actually is, I found very practical in our life. If we don't glorify the Lord as much, then we find everything else meaningless.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's the essence, right? That is the most essential point. Thank you. Okay. Next thing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
So Canto 1 is full of prayers and how the relationship between guru and disciples. And I found like one interesting point when devotees offer prayers. We are just looking for Krishna's smile. That get this. When devotees like and the ladies on the rooftops and when they were praying, Krishna just gave a smile, and that was the perfection of life for them. And I like the analogy that you gave for the smile, the satisfying, mystical, infectious, and lasting forever, enchanting. So I like that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Queen Kunti's prayer about taking shelter, like give me more calamity so that
I think your voice is a little bit breaking up. Is it just me or everyone is having?
attachment the most in this but everything else is.
Mate, your voice is breaking up. We cannot hear you.
Yes, Prabhu, I noticed your it could be also. Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable.
We can come back, Mati. It's okay. Because we couldn't hear much of what you said. We just hear that some part of frequency.
I will drop and come back, Prabhuji.
Okay, sure. Okay. Can you take one more person? Yes.
I really like the point that how Krishna is so merciful. I mean, even protecting Kunti Devi, or how he's like guiding Pandavas, go and take lessons from Bhishma Dev, do this, do that. So Krishna is there everywhere. So he's helping everyone. So I felt like, he is there for us too. He helps everyone. So I really like that point.
Okay. Vijay Rathmati, would you like to try again?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, is it better now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
The whole of chapter 1 is beautiful, but for me, Queen Kunti's prayers to Krishna about giving her more calamity so Krishna can be close to her was most touching for me. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Okay, so let's proceed. Yeah. Okay. So Canto 1, quick overview, and then Canto 2 overview. So Canto 1 starts off with the first 3 verses, which is actually a glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. We define in text 1 what is the definition of God, the absolute truth. In second verse, we describe the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And third verse is actually an invitation for all of us to actually relish the nectar or drink the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. First 3 verses, right? Then we come to the scene of Suta Goswami, of Sonak Adi Rishi, who sat to perform a 1,000-year sacrifice. Right? And then when they're performing the sacrifice, Suta Goswami enters. Right? And then they actually put 6 questions in front of Suta Goswami. Right? So that is actually the first. So we'll see different sets of question answers. So first set of question answers is what is the good for all? What is the essence of all scriptures? What is the purpose of Krishna's appearance? Please talk of Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, and where did religion take shelter after Krishna departed? 6 questions. Right? And the answer to the 6 questions is chapter 1, actually chapter 2, chapter 3. right? Chapter 2, chapter 3. And chapter 2 starts off, Suta Goswami first offers his obeisances to Sukadev Goswami, his spiritual master, and then he starts giving the answer from text number 6. So he answers these 6 questions, and chapter 3 ends with the point about where the religion takes shelter in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So that concludes chapter 3. So that is first set of questions and answers in 2 chapters. Now, chapter 4 is the second set of questions, right? And what are the second set of questions? The first thing is, what is the history of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Where did Vyasadeva actually get that inspiration to actually write Srimad Bhagavatam, right? First question. Second question is, we want to know about the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit, right? Because he's the main receptor of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we want to know the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit. Third question, why did Parikshit, who was actually living a life just for the benefit of others, give up everything and go to the banks of Ganges to actually fast until death? Why did he give up everything? Fourth question is, how did this conversation between, how did Sukadev Goswami arrive, and how did that entire scene happen where this conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit actually take place? Right? So in that section, they also actually glorify Maharaj Parikshit. How did this actually happen? So 4 questions, right? Okay, so second set, 4 questions. So first is what? History of Srimad Bhagavatam. Where did Vyasadeva get inspiration? So that is answered in 4, 5, 6, and 7 first few verses, right? In that, Narad Muni has basically described his own life, giving his own example, like how he was a small boy and how he actually received the mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas. And then we read about the, in that section, we read about Vyasadeva compiling the 4 Vedas, Puranas, still being dissatisfied, Narad Muni coming, talking, telling about his own life, and then finally saying that you haven't glorified Krishna sufficiently. You have focused on the 4 Purusharthas, you haven't glorified Krishna sufficiently. In chapter 7 starts off with Vyasadeva meditation. After Narad Muni departed, Vyasadeva performed meditation, and in that meditation, he actually saw Krishna, he saw Maya, he saw the living entities who are covered by Maya, and he saw the process by which one can actually overcome Maya and reach in the perfection. So that is chapter 7. Okay, so that is the answer for the first question. What is the history of Srimad Bhagavatam? Now, second question is what? The birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit. So then Suta Goswami starts off with that theme, right? So in 7th chapter, what is after that meditation section is a section where first we have to talk about Ashwatthama, because birth is related to how Ashwatthama released the Brahmastra. So we read about how Ashwatthama has released the Brahmastra, and how this entire scene between Krishna, Arjun, how they chase Ashwatthama, and then how Draupadi actually forgives Ashwatthama, right? So that was chapter 7. Now chapter 8 starts off with Uttara coming to Krishna and saying, oh, the Brahmastra has been released onto my womb. Please save the child in the womb, right? And then Krishna actually protects Parikshit in the womb. So that is starting of chapter 8. And then Krishna is, so finally see, if a storyline, we have to finally come to the part of Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami's conversation, right? For that, Parikshit needs to retire. Before that, Parikshit's rule is there. Before that, Pandavas have to retire. And before Pandavas retire, Krishna has to disappear, right? So that way, right? So when he talks, so chapter 8, Uttara, when she actually, Krishna protects the child in the womb of Uttara. Then when he's ready to leave for Dwarka, then Queen Kunti comes. And then she offers her wonderful prayers. Right? And at the end of receiving all the prayers from Queen Kunti, then Krishna smiles and he's ready to leave to Dwarka. But then what happens? Yudhishthira Maharaj is still not, is very feeling sad that so many people had to be killed because of me. So Krishna had to stay longer to actually somehow pacify Yudhishthira, right? So he tried to pacify, but Yudhishthira, that was Krishna's great Adbhut Karya, right? Somewhere like that is there. That's so amazing that Krishna tried to pacify Yudhishthira, but Yudhishthira Maharaj was not satisfied. And that's where Krishna says, okay, let's go to Bhishma Dev. He will actually satisfy your heart, right? And then they go to Bhishma Dev. Then chapter 9 is giving entire Bhishma Stuti. When we see Bhishma Dev, how he actually talks to the Pandavas. He gives he talks about the reason why Pandavas went through all that. And then we read about Bhishma Dev's departure, right? How he's meditating on the past things of the Lord, and then in that way Bhishma Dev departs. Okay. So that is chapter 9, right? Now we have right. So after that, now Krishna. So see, Krishna has to leave for Dwarka. Then the Pandavas are going to hear about Krishna's departure. So Krishna leaves for Dwarka. So chapter 10, we read about when Krishna is going to Dwarka, how the ladies of Hastinapur, offer prayers to Krishna. And then chapter 11, when Krishna is entering Dwarka, how the residents of, is that right? Yes. Chapter 11, is that right? Yeah, right. That's right. So chapter 11, when Krishna enters Dwarka, how the residents of Dwarka receive Krishna. Right? Now, after this whole thing, Krishna has left. Now the point is, okay, now we want to see how Maharaj Parikshit has become the emperor, right? Now, in chapter 12, again, Shaunakadi Rishi said, okay, we read about Krishna's departure. Now we want to hear Parikshit. Please come back to Parikshit because we want to hear this conversation between Parikshit and Sukadev, right? So then chapter 12 starts off, they actually describe Parikshit's birth. They talk about how at the time of birth, how Maharaj Yudhishthir called all these astrologers, they predicted the glories of Maharaj Parikshit. All that section is there in 12. Chapter 13, we read about how Yudhishthir Maharaj is still ruling. So at the time Vidura comes, right? Because Dhritarashtra has to leave. Right? All these are just connecting points. So Vidura comes, and then how Yudhishthir Maharaj greets Vidura, and then Dhritarashtra, he gives instructions to Dhritarashtra leaves. Right? And then chapter 13, yeah, so chapter 13 is where Dhritarashtra leaves. And then after that, then we are coming to Parikshit Maharaj rule. So, okay, sorry. After Krishna, after Dhritarashtra leaves, the next section is basically how Arjun has gone to Dwarka, right? Arjun has gone to Dwarka to see what is, how is Krishna doing and what is the next instruction for the Pandava. But then he comes back in a very dejected way. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj comes to know that Krishna has departed. And Narad Muni is already informed, when Krishna departed, you all also wind up. So Pandavas retire. That's the next chapter, right? After Pandavas retire, then we are coming to Parikshit Maharaj's rule. After Pandavas retired, they established Parikshit as the emperor. Now we read about the glorious rule of Maharaj Parikshit. And then when you are reading the glorious rule of Maharaj Parikshit, we see how Parikshit, when he's traveling everywhere, what does he come and see? He see the Kali, a person who's dressed as who's a Shudra, dressed as a king, beating the legs of a bull and the cow, right? And that's when we have the entire conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Dharma, right? And bull, that entire conversation is there, right? And then we read how Parikshit Maharaj chastises Kali, right? That entire episode. So that is basically chapter 16 and 17. Right? So in that way, we have actually described. So this is answer to question number 2. Please talk about the birth and activities of Maharaj Parikshit. What is question number 3? Question number 3 is, why did Parikshit give up everything? He was such a glorious king, living for the benefit of others. Why did he give up everything and go to the banks of the Yamuna, fast until death? Right? And then we come of this entire episode, how Parikshit was cursed, and then Shringi, Samik Rishi, all that episode. And then chapter 18 starts off with Parikshit Maharaj repenting, and then he actually goes to the banks of Ganges, and then when he actually decides to fast to death, then sages from all over the universe come, and then he asks the question, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances, particularly one who's going to die? Right? And then sages cannot decide. Sukadeva Goswami walks in, he offers obeisance to Sukadeva Goswami, and then again asks the same question. What is the duty of everyone in all circumstances, particularly one who's going to die? Right? And that's it. That ends Canto 1, and chapter 2, Canto 2 starts with Sukadeva Goswami's answer. Okay? So flow of entire Canto 1 is good. Okay. So I hope everyone here has read the full Canto 1, has kept up with the reading. Right? So please, if you're doing Bhakti Vaibhav and if you have not read the full, as you're not keeping up with the reading, then that's what's the whole point of Bhakti Vaibhav? So in case you have missed any section this whole week, make a goal, read more, complete full first canto. If any section you have not read by any reason, please complete your first canto. At least you should read. And once, like, the whole point of Bhakti Vaibhav is to go deeper and to analyze more into text. But it starts off by reading and relishing Prabhupada's purpose. So everyone, please, this first canto, if any section is left, please go back and complete the reading for canto 1. Then, so at least this week and the end of this week, you'll have your exam also. So you can just focus on first canto for this coming week. And then from next Sunday onwards, following onwards, we'll start, like, you can start your reading of canto 2. And so, and keep up with the reading. That's like the most important thing. Bhakti Vaibhav, if you're not reading, then what's the point, right? We want to really dive into the nectar of Prabhupada's purpose. Okay. Any points up to this about canto 1? Anything? Okay. So ready, everyone? Entering into canto 2. So congratulations for coming to the journey of completing first canto. Now we start with second canto. Second canto starts off with Sukadeva Goswami, right, getting into the question. Parikshit Maharaj's question is very clear. Sukadeva Goswami, right, starts into the question. And he goes right. So we'll discuss few verses today. He goes right into the answers of Parikshit Maharaj's question. Right? So Parikshit Maharaj, okay, so we'll start off at that point. Yeah. Okay, so it starts off with Parikshit Maharaj's question, and then Parikshit Maharaj establishes that what is the duty of one in all circumstances, what should one actually do, particularly one who's going to die. And also in Canto 1, if you remember, after asking that question, he said, what should one hear, what should one chant, what should one remember, what should one worship, right? And what one should not do, both of these things here now. So he starts off with that. So first few verses, up to text number 14, is just Sukadeva Goswami answering these questions right away. What one should not hear, what one should hear, right? All those things, right? So in first 14 verses, he establishes bhakti as the highest. Now, if you go back to the first set of questions by Sonakadi Rishi, what was the question there? Very similar. What is the essence good for everyone and essence of all the Shastra? And Savai Pumsam Parodharma Yato Bhaktir Adapshate. So Sukadeva Goswami is also establishing that in the first 14 verses of this chapter, right? Chapter 1. Now, after that, now if you see, Sukadeva Goswami is narrating, and there are all these different sages, but not everyone. When Parikshit Maharaj asked the question for the first time, all the sages were not unanimous in their conclusion of what is the best thing, right? So when now Sukadeva Goswami is answering, he has to conclusively prove that bhakti is the best, the highest, right? So now, after the first 15 verses where he establishes bhakti is the highest, now he has to compare other processes and show how bhakti stands the highest, right? So then he talks of Astanga Yoga, right? So the remaining part from text 15 onwards to the end of this chapter, he talks of the meditation on the universal form. So we'll talk about the Virat Rupa, right? So that is the rest of first chapter. Now, after that, Virat Rupa, so he's talking about Astanga Yoga. In Astanga Yoga, there are, in one of the limbs is called Dharana, right? You all know, right? Astanga, Yam, Niyam, Asana. So it comes to Dharana. In Dharana, based on the advancement of the yogi, there are two objects of meditation. One object is Virat Rupa, second object is Paramatma. So first chapter, he's focusing on Virat Rupa. Second chapter, he's focusing on meditation of Paramatma, right? And second chapter, basically, he talks about, so those who are actually meditation on Virat Rupa, what kind of liberation they get, and those who are meditating on Paramatma, what is their process of perfection, right? So that is all in the second chapter. And why is he coming all this? Because then he points out, well, that liberation of meditation through Virat Rupa or meditation Paramatma, he actually comes to a conclusion that finally, even those two, the highest, the most auspicious path is Bhakti. So the first entire theme is Bhakti is the highest. We'll compare it to Astanga Yoga. Their perfection is still not as good as Bhakti. Still, Bhakti is the highest. So second chapter also concludes with Bhakti as the highest. Right? Now, chapter 3, he goes and says, oh, what about demigod worship? right? Worshipping, attaining Swarga Loka. Isn't that a worthy goal to aspire for? And then in chapter 3, he talks of demigod worship. And then after talking of demigod worship, he compares that to pure devotional service and says, yes, pure devotional service is the highest. And that can only be attained by coming in contact with devotees of Krishna. Okay. So that is the answer. So that is first 3 chapters of Canto 2 has answered the question of Maharaj Parikshit asked in the end of the first canto. Okay, everyone is with me? Yes? Okay. Now, chapter 4 starts off. So what is the similarity first and second canto? Chapter 4 in the first canto is the second set of questions of Shonagadi Rishi. Chapter 4 in second canto is the second set of questions by Parikshit Maharaj. Okay. So after the answering Parikshit Maharaj's question, now in chapter 4, Parikshit Maharaj asks further questions. And what are the questions he asks? He says, how does the Lord actually create this material world through his different energies? And particularly, I want to understand the aspect of Sarga and Visarga. Primary creation, secondary creation. Right? So those 2 are the questions Parikshit Maharaj asked. And then Sukadev Goswami. So up to this point, see, when Shonakadi Rishi asked questions to Suta Goswami, what did Suta Goswami first do? Chapter 2, first few verses, what are they? He's offering obeisances to Suta Goswami, to Sukadev Goswami. And he says, which was Narayan Namaskritam, Naranchaiva Narottam. He's offering obeisances to Lord Narayan. Now, when we see Sukadev Goswami answering Parikshit Maharaj, we don't read any verses where he's offering obeisances to Lord. Right? So now, when the second question, and I heard one of the devotees make this point, that Sukadeva Goswami was so eager to answer that most important question of Parikshit that he went right into the question. But now, when the conversation is actually more detailed, where he's asking more questions, Parikshit Maharaj is asking a second set of questions, now he actually offers obeisances to Krishna. So 4th chapter, a majority of the chapter is actually Sukadeva Goswami offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of God. Right? And then chapter 5, he starts answering these 2 questions of Maharaj Parikshit. But how does he answer? He says, yes, I will give you the answer, but I will give you in terms of what Brahma spoke to Narad Muni. That Brahma Narada Samvad will give you the answer to your questions. So chapter 5 onwards, he actually is talking of the conversation that took place between Brahmaji and Narad. When Narad Muni asked, oh Brahmaji, I think you are the main creator. Right? You are doing everything, right? And Brahmaji said, no, I'm not the main creator. I always meditate upon Krishna. I get all my strength from Krishna. And then he actually explains all the aspects of creation. So in that question between conversation with Brahma and Narada, there are 6 questions. Right? So I'm just giving you an overview. If you have questions, we'll come to that section. But he asked, what are the characteristics of the universe? What is the shelter of the universe? How is it created? How is the entire universe created? 3rd question. Then 4th question, who is maintaining this universe? That's where actually Brahmaji talks about like Leela avatars, Purusha avatars. So we'll again come back to that. And in that, he gives a summary of Krishna's pastimes also. Right? So that's all there. Then he asks, Yat Param, what does this universe depend upon? And Yatcha, who is the cause, the ultimate cause of this entire manifestation? Right? So these are 6 questions. And chapter 5 is quite technical in the terms of like starting from Mahavishnu, how Pradhan and Mahat Tattva, and then different elements. But it's very interesting. Right? So we'll do that. And then chapter 6 is actually answering what is the cause of the entire universe. And Brahmaji answers that question by actually, he is giving the answer to the question, but that answer is very similar to Purusha Shukta prayers. So what is the Purusha Shukta prayers? Whenever the demigods are in distress, they go to the banks of Shwetadev and then they chant Purusha Shukta prayers, calling out for the mercy of Vishnu. Right? So chapter 6 is actually titled Purusha Shukta Confirmed. So Brahmadi's answer is actually basically is one by one, like in a parallel with the Purusha Shukta prayers. So that is chapter 6. So let's continue. And then chapter 7, how is it maintained? How is this universe maintained? all the different avatars, Leela avatar, Purusha avatar, all the different avatars. So in chapter 7, Brahmaji lists how all these different Leela avatars, Guna avatars, Manvantara avatars, Ashesha avatars, all of them, they are actually maintaining this universe. Okay. And chapter 7, so that chapter 7 ends this answers to Maharaj Parikshit's second set of questions. Right? So chapter 4 started with Parikshit Maharaj's questions. So 5 is the answer, 6 is the answer, 7 is the answer. So 3 chapters answer. And if you see, even in Canto 1, it's similar. Canto 1, 4th chapter is questions, then 5, 6, 7 answer. So here also we have Canto chapter 4 question, 5, 6, 7 answer. Right? Now after that, now is the third set of questions. Now Parikshit Maharaj is so eager to hear that in third set of questions, chapter 8 is, entire chapter is Parikshit Maharaj's questions. Entire chapter is question. There are 29 questions that Parikshit Maharaj asked in chapter 8. And those 29 questions are answered from Canto 2 all the way to Canto 12. So basically, he's asked everything. And he asks all the questions and he says, "Oh, Sukadev Goswami, please answer these questions and please answer what I have not asked also." And then Sukadev Goswami starts answering. So that chapter 8 is basically all questions, and then he asks questions about like, how is the let's see, yeah. How is the jiva who is spiritual attains a material body? Then what is the difference between the Lord and the living entities? Brahma, he actually appeared from the navel of Shirodaksha Vishnu. Shirodaksha Vishnu is completely spiritual, right? So is the that lotus, that navel coming out, is that material or spiritual? And in Brahma's body, is it material or spiritual? Right? So he has such questions. And then he asks about time, about the entire universe, right? So that's explained in 5th canto. And then he asks the dimensions of the universe. What is Varnashram Dharma? That is towards the end of the 7th canto. Then he asks about Sankhya Yoga, that is 3rd canto. He asks about conclusion of all the Vedas, 12th canto. Answer is there. Then, yeah. So in that way, there are like 29 questions. All those are said. So Parikshit Maharaj said, "Oh, Sukadeva Goswami, please don't end. I have given you enough questions for my 7 days. So just keep narrating up to the end of my life." So then in chapter 9 of the 2nd canto, Sukadeva Goswami starts answering, and he starts the answer by the conversation between Brahma and Krishna. Right? So that conversation between Brahma and the Lord, that samvad, is chapter 9. And in chapter 9, we'll be discussing the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. The 4 verses, the most important, is said like the Bhagavatam originates from these 4 verses, the most important. Now someone can unmute and tell me what is the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita? Okay, which chapter does it come?
10.
Okay, chapter 10. And where is 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita?
Ahameva sameva agre.
No, you're saying the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. I'm asking for Bhagavad Gita.
Chapter 10, right? Oh, 10.
Chapter 10 is Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Where is 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita? Sorry. Chapter 10 is Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. Where is 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita?
Chapter 10, right?
No, that's Chatushloki. Chapter 15 is 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I never
In
heard.
chapter 15, you'll see that three shlokas cover the entire essence of it. So anyway, so every chapter, every scripture, you can see this. There's some verses which are actually said either Paribhas Sutra is there, or some verses which actually said the essence of everything. Right? So 4 verses, so that will come in chapter 9. Right? Now, after giving that chapter 9, some questions have been answered. But then after that, in chapter 10, Sukadeva Goswami says, so many questions you have asked, but Bhagavatam has all the answers. In chapter 10, the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam is actually the same. Right? Atra sarga visargasya sthanam poshanam uthaya manvantara ishanukata nirodha muktir ashram. These are the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam, which actually makes this Bhagavatam unique among all the scriptures, because no scripture has all these 10 topics explained in so much detail. Right? The primary sarga, visarga, primary creation, secondary creation, sthanam, what is the right situation for living entities, poshanam, what is the maintenance, manvantara, what are the different manus, right? Uti, what is the impetus to do any activity, right? Then ishanukata, what is the science of God, right? Then nirodha, nirodha means liberation or winding up, right? Then mukti is liberation, and ashraya, who is finally the shelter of everything. Right? So these 10 topics. And then finally, after these 10 topics, so basically Sukadeva Goswami is saying, this Bhagavatam will answer all your questions. You gave me all the questions possible, but Bhagavatam has all the answers. Right? And then he concludes the second canto with more further answering some more questions of Parikshit Maharaj. And that's how canto 2 ends. So that is entire second canto. Second canto has 10 chapters, right? So how many sets of questions did we discuss till now? So what?
3, right? For
Okay.
Canto 2.
Yes. So first is in 19th chapter. What was the question of first set of question of Maharaj Parikshit?
What is the good for everyone, especially those who are? I mean, what is the duty
Ultimate.
of everyone, especially those who are about to die?
What is the duty of everyone in all circumstances, particularly husband to die? Okay? First question. The second set is in chapter number
4.
4. Right? Chapter number 4, second set of questions, and that's basically focused on creation. Right? How does the Lord create? What is sarga, visarga? Then that is chapters 5, 6, 7. Chapter number 8, whole list of questions. Right? Lots of questions. And then chapter 9, he starts answering a question by giving Brahma and the Lord Samvad. Right? Before he has given Brahma and Narada Samvad, now Brahma and Lord Samvad. And then chapter 10, actually, he says Bhagavatam has all the answers, because all these 10 topics are actually explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that makes Canto 2 ends. Okay. Okay. Any comments up to this point? Questions, comments?
I have a quick question. Maybe you'll answer later, but like, if I had 7 days to live, I might not ask like about the creation, all these details. So why did he ask this kind of questions?
Why didn't he directly just go to the 10 canto and say, like, I just want to, because we know Parikshit Maharaj is such an elevated devotee, right? Why did he not directly ask the 10 canto? Okay, who can say the answer? Why does Bhagavad Gita not end in just like 2-3 verses? Why
Because it is for us, right? Bhagavatam is for us, so that everyone can get the answers that they have for the questions. Similarly, Bhagavatam can answer all our questions.
So 2 points here. So what is the answer to this question? 2 points. One is the point that you all mentioned, that, Parikshit Maharaj knows that the entire conversation of the Bhagavatam is taking place for the benefit of all the people. Right? And if he only talks about 10 canto, how many of them can actually relish 10 canto pastime? Right? And then, so everyone, like who are the hearers of the Bhagavatam, need to conclusively, step by step, progress in their spiritual life, coming to the point of where in 10 canto you can actually relish the 10 canto. We have read this so many times, right? If you haphazardly jump to the 10 canto, what does systematic reading mean? Going step by step, right? Step by step. So one is Bhagavatam is actually Krishna himself who has appeared for the benefit of all the people, right? So step by step, that is actually these questions. This progression, right, coming to the 10 canto. Second point is that actually for devotees of the Lord, though one may be like naturally more attracted to the pastimes of the Lord, but anything related to Krishna is actually nectar for the devotees. Anything related to Krishna is nectar. Like how Prabhupada said, like how people, they jump to the 10 canto and they want to read Ras Leela. But first they have to appreciate Krishna in Kurukshetra. Then they can appreciate Krishna in Vrindavan. Right? So for a pure devotee of Krishna, anything related to Krishna is actually very, very nectarian. So it's not that Parikshit Maharaj is saying, okay, let me go through, finish this, then I will come to the interesting part. Everything is so relishable for Parikshit Maharaj. Certainly 10th canto has this unique flavor, but it's not all these sections are not something that is, boring, or it's like, oh, let's finish it. We'll go to the interesting sections of the Bhagavatam. That's not the case. Pure devotee, religious, everything connected to Krishna. So these are the 2 points. Okay. Okay. So ready to start? Text 1. Okay. Let's go. So 2.1.1. So, okay, let's start. Text 1.
I forgot to put up the list.
Was it?
I forgot to put up the list. Wait.
Oh.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That invocation.
Go ahead, you can read the floor.
O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Okay. So, Sukadeva Goswami is answering. Actually, this one, no, it is not Sukadeva Goswami, this is invocation. Because text 1 starts with Sri Sukha Uvacha. Right? So, how in first canto also we start off with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We offer our obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, in this second canto, we start off by offering obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Prabhupada explains this invocation, and basically he says Vasudevaya, right, referring to Krishna, who's the son of Vasudeva. And he's basically saying by offering obeisances to Krishna, Vasudeva, one can attain all the good results, all the auspiciousnesses created just by meditation on the form of Krishna. And he says Krishna, how it's a reservoir of all pleasures. Now, Prabhupada also makes a point that how Prabhupada makes a point that first canto is talking about the principles of creation, and second canto is talking about Visarga, Sarga and Visarga. Now one may say, like, first canto, where is that aspect of creation? So this is actually explained by our acharyas that, one way if you see the 10 aspects of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right, 10 aspects. Someone may say first canto is first aspect, second canto is second aspect, right? So that is one way of actually saying that, it is step by step, because 10 canto is what? Lord Krishna's pastime. And who is the ashray of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam? Shri Krishna. So one way that relation is actually there, right? And then Manvantara is actually 8 canto is there, right? Throughout we talk about Manvantara, but 8 canto there's so much. So someone may say that each canto is specific to one. That is one way of saying it. The other way our Acharya says, Jiva Goswami says, actually in every canto there is aspects of all these 10 things, right? Even Krishna's pastime, you find it in the first canto. Which chapter did we read about Krishna? Directly Krishna's appearance. Chapter 3, where all the Leela avatars are there, and it says, Ete Chamshakala Prabhu, Krishna Subhavan. Canto 2, again, is there Krishna's pastime? Yes. When Brahma is actually talking about Narada, he actually gives few verses where he actually talks about Krishna's pastimes. Third canto, are Krishna's pastimes there? Yes. Between Uddhav and Vidura, right? Uddhav actually talks about Krishna, and that's actually almost 2 chapters in this 1.5 chapter is Krishna's pastime directly from 10 canto. So it's not that Krishna's canto pastimes are only waited. You have to wait till 10 canto. It comes through Srimad Bhagavatam. So one way our Acharya says that every canto has all these different elements. Right? Prabhupada here is saying that, first canto is actually principles of creation. Second canto is actually the cosmic manifestation, the secondary creation. Okay. And then, right, so Prabhupada says this second canto has 10 chapters. So we went through all those 10 chapters. And the entire purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the symptoms of this purpose. So basically the 10th chapter, how it actually gives the 10 topics or 10 symptoms of the Bhagavatam being described. And then Prabhupada also talks about in this section that how Parikshit Maharaj is a natural devotee of Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami, he actually understood the devotion of Krishna. And hence the conversation, we mentioned this last time, right? When you see both of these, Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, Both of them are such exalted devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. Right? If you see in the 19th chapter, just in the 19th chapter, symptoms of how Maharaj Parikshit has this natural devotion to Krishna. Right? So we see that how when he was cursed and when he heard, okay, 7 days to live, what did he do? He said, okay, now I'm going to concentrate my mind on Krishna, Krishnangi Sevam, right? And he'll reject all other processes, establishing bhakti as the highest. Right? And further in text 15, he says, oh, this curse is actually Krishna himself. So you please, he's so merciful. So you all please, Gayata Vishnu Gatha, continue singing over Krishna. Right? And text 16, we see where he actually says, oh, if I have to take birth again, what do I want? I still want Bhagavati Anante Ratihi. I want devotion to Lord Shri Krishna. Then text 20 and 21, it is described that how the sages are saying that, oh, this is not at all astonishing that you have actually decided to fast until that you yourself are such a great devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. In text 36, we see how Parikshit Maharaj, he accepts Sukadeva Goswami's presence as also the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see 19th chapter is just so many symptoms of the glorification of the devotion of Parikshit Maharaj. So natural devotion of Parikshit. And Sukadeva Goswami also we have read how he's a natural devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. So if we come to that, in text 9 and 10, we'll be reading more about Sukadeva Goswami's glories. Okay. Now let's come to the first verse of the second canto.
Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Varyanesha te prashna krito lokahitam nripa atmavid samata pumsam shrota vyadishu yaparaha.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. Hare Krishna.
So 4 qualities. So this is a theme that we see again and again in Bhagavatam. When a question is asked, the question is related to Bhagavatam. That's why it is there in Bhagavatam. Then the speaker glorifies the question. Right? So here Sukadeva Goswami is saying, oh, your question is very nice. 4 qualities to your question. First one, Varyan. Varyan means very glorious. The question itself is so wonderful. Right? Second one, Loka Hitam. Loka Hitam means it is beneficial for all the Loka. Right? So when you ask such a question, which is actually beneficial to everyone, certainly that question is very glorious. It is going to benefit everyone. Then third one, Atmavit Samataha. Atmavit Samataha means this is actually approved by all the transcendentalists. All the transcendentalists approve that this is actually the best question. Right? And then the last one, Shrota Vyadishu Paraha. Right? This is a supreme subject matter of hearing. So these 4 qualities are given by Sukadeva Goswami. So your question is so good and it has these 4 qualities. Now, if you see a similar verse, when Shonakadi Rishi asked the question to Suta Goswami, Suta Goswami actually glorifies the question. And it's a very similar verse. This is in the first canto, second chapter, text number 5. Right, where he says, Munayo sadhu prishtoham bhavadbir loka mangalam. Loka mangalam. Here what is it? Loka hitam. So similar. Right? Loka mangalam. And then yat krita Krishna samprashtam. Because they are directly related to Krishna, that question is wonderful. Yenatma supradisa. Supra sidati. Right? That question will give the complete satisfaction to everyone. Right? So in 2.1.5, it's like 1.2.5, it says, O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable to completely satisfy yourself. Right? So Prabhupada explains the point that why these questions are beneficial for everyone. Anyone wants to unmute and say why such a question is beneficial for everyone?
Everybody will die, everybody will birth, right?
So everyone is going through a cycle of birth and death, and this is giving the solution to that. Okay. What else?
It is related to Krishna.
Yes, it's related to Krishna. So Prabhupada in the purport focuses on this point that Krishna, anything related to Krishna, Krishna is absolute, right? Krishna is the original absolute personality of God, and he's all perfect. anything related to Krishna is also original and all perfect. So even a question that is related to Krishna is original and all perfect. So one way, actually it's so interesting that Prabhupada and also Chakravarti Pada is making this point, that Parikshit Maharaj asked, what should one hear about? What should one chant? And they are saying, the Prabhupada is making the point, the question itself is so nice that you just chant the question. No need to chant the answer. The question itself is so nice, you chant the question itself. Right? So Prabhupada is making that point that simply by this question, that's it, you'll attain perfection. The question itself is so nice. Right? And Prabhupada in the purport to 1 to 5, he actually makes the point that everyone is asking questions at every instant. Right? Because a question determines what we are doing in our life. If someone is asking, where is money? Where is money? Then if you see his entire consciousness is, what is the stock market? Bhav kya hai? Prabhupada said in lecture. Bhav kya hai? They keep checking. Right? Morning they'll get up. First thing is stock market, up or down. This share, up or down. That is their thing. And their entire focus is there. So based on what questions we ask, that determines the state of our consciousness. And even during a class, you can see, the class is going on in that question, just by the question, you can know what is the consciousness of the person. The question itself is so glorious. And Prabhupada actually makes the point that everyone is asking questions. Even the birds in the morning, they are chirping. What are they saying? Where is our food? Where is our food? Where is our beautiful opposite sex? Right? That's their question. Right? But all those questions will not give satisfaction to self. The only way we can get satisfaction if the questions are related to Lord Shri Krishna. Yenatma suprasidati. Only this question will give happiness to all the loka, and hence it is actually beneficial to everyone. And also one way, questions, how we read in the first canto 19th chapter in the purport, Prabhupada makes the point that one should approach a guru only when one has questions. Right? Only when one has questions, because it is these questions which actually removes the doubts in our heart and increases our faith in Krishna. When we actually ask a question, it is revealing, okay, some anartha is there in our heart. Ask the question, right? And just by that answer, the spiritual master knows that, oh, this person is serious about, clearing out this anartha or serious about progressing. And by that answer of the spiritual master comes the mercy to actually overcome that. Right? So hence our questions are so important. Now, further in the purport, Prabhupada actually, he quotes he doesn't directly quote, but towards the end of the purport, he actually says, the topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, and the inquirer. They are compared to the Ganges water which flow from the toe of Lord Krishna. So this is actually one verse in the 10th canto. So Prabhupada is not quoting the verse, but he's actually explaining the translation. So this comes in the 10th canto, first chapter, 16th verse, 10:1:16. Right? Where it says, Vasudeva Katha Prashna, Purusham Trin Punati Teen Prunatihi, Vaktaram Prachakam Strotim, Tat Pada Shalilam Yata. So the Ganges emanating from the toe of Lord Vishnu purifies the three worlds, the upper, the middle, and the lower planetary system. Similarly, when one asks questions about Krishna, then three varieties of men are purified. The speaker, the one who's asking the question, and all the people who are assembled who are listening. Okay? All three are purified. So if you ask a question which is actually for benefit of everyone, then you are benefited, the person who's giving the answer is benefited, and everyone in that assembly is benefited. Jiva Goswami gives a comparison that, if you have water that's offered to Krishna, then there may be one person who's sprinkling the water, right? And so the person who's sprinkling, he'll get benefit. The person who's receiving will get benefit. Plus the water, when it's sprinkled, it will go to anyone who's sitting close by. So even they'll get benefit. So in that way, all these three classes of men get benefited. So Prabhupada further in the purport, I made the point that the question itself can be heard, chanted, and remembered. It is so wonderful. Simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve perfection. Okay. And Prabhupada also quotes that, finally our goal of life is what? Our goal of life, or he's particularly talking about how Parikshit Maharaj is asking that. He wants to absorb his mind in Krishna Katha. So hence he's asking questions about Krishna, because this questioning and receiving the answer absorbs our mind in Krishna. And Prabhupada goes, Janma Karma Jame Divyam. So when you're hearing about Krishna's birth and activities, then naturally we won't have to come back again in this material world. So by Parikshit Maharaj questioning the right question, he's actually guaranteeing that he won't have to come back into this material world. Okay. So one other point I want to quickly mention before we go to the next verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, before he starts the commentary to the second canto, he actually makes a prayer. Right? So I'll also just repeat his words so we all can pray how Chakravarti Pad is praying. He's saying, offering respects to Guru and Krishna, the ocean of mercy, I take shelter of Sri Sukadev Goswami, who is the eye of the universe and the master of the worlds. I offer myself and everything I possess to He who is the life of the gopis, the controller, for service to his dear devotees. I'll repeat the last part again. I offer myself and everything I possess to who? Krishna, right? Why? For the service of his dear devotees. We are offering everything to Krishna for engaging in service to his dear devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is starting the second canto with this beautiful thing. Okay. So text number 2.
Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrashaha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedhinam.
Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor.
So in chapter 19, first canto, text 38, Parikshit Maharaj also asks, Yat Shrotam, Atho Japyam, Yat Kartavyam, Nirbhi Prabhu, Smartavyam, Bhajaniyam, Va Bruhi Yad Va Viparyayam. So please let me know, what should one? Shrota. So Shrota, so same word we are seeing here, right? Shrotavyadini. So he asked in text 38, what should one hear? Shrotavyam. So same word is here. And then what should one chant? What should one remember? And what should one worship? And also what one should not do. Please explain all this to me, right? So here's a very wonderful point, and we can actually use this practical point for preaching. That the point is that of teaching by contrast. Right? So sometimes, if someone asks, okay, does God exist? So how can you answer this question? One way you can actually make the point that if God does not exist, then how is everything happening so perfectly? Who is taking care of the laws of karma? Who is making sure that the sun rises every day and sets every day? Who is making sure that the weathers are changing in a proper way? And finally, who has made this arrangement for all of us that we can breathe in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide, and then plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen? Who is making all these arrangements? So you can actually start off from like, oh, if God does not exist this way, right? So that's just one example. But when we are asked this question, we can teach by giving like, oh, if this is not, then what happens? And by that conclude that, okay, this is the best, right? So similarly here, Sukadev Goswami is starting off 3 verses by saying what one should not hear. Because if you hear these things, then it is simply a waste of time, right? And then you will actually be forced to give up things that you're attached to, you're blind to real knowledge. So he talks of all these things negative, right? If you hear all these other topics, then what is the result? And by that we can conclude that, okay, all these topics are not worth hearing. What is the real topic for hearing? That will be after 3 verses. Okay. So Shrotavya Adini, that means subject matters for hearing. Rajendra, O king, Sahasrashaha means hundreds and thousands. Right? Apashyata, blind. Atma Tattva. So even in the first verse we read this Atma Tattva, right? Atma Tattva. And that we read Atma Vit. Atma Vit means this question is approved by transcendentalists. Here it is said Atma Tattva, one who know the knowledge of the self. Then Griheshu, Griha, Medina. Griheshu, Griha means house. Griheshu, right? Again, referring to the house. Griha, Medina means one who's actually totally engrossed in the house and everything surrounded them, associated with the house. So basically, this verse is saying that people who are apashyatam, who are actually blind to Atma Tattva, right? Who are blind to Atma Tattva, what do they have? Sahasra. They have thousands, hundreds, and thousands of topics to talk about. Why? Because they are just attached to their house and everything related to house. Anyone can say a verse from Bhagavad Gita which is kind of related to this point? Very famous verse. One pointed versus Bahushaka. No.
Ekeha Kurunandana Bahusaka.
Okay, what's the starting?
Vyavasatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana.
Yes, thank you.
Vivshaka.
Yes, thank you, bro. So Vyavasatmika buddhi ekehe kurunandana. So those who are actually fixed, they know about the absolute truth. Their topic is ekehe, only one topic. How can I serve Krishna? Right? Bahushaka Vyanta said. Otherwise, they have Bahushaka, thousands of topics to talk about. Like, just practically, like, I'm sure everyone knows that, there's this group called Neighbor or Next Door Neighbor, something like that. Next Door Neighbor. Yeah. If you see the topics that people talk about, it's all over the place. And someone is saying, why are you even talking about these things? But people just have like thousands and thousands of topics. And even if you go read the news, there's some things like, okay, this happened, this happened. But some news is like, why are you even writing articles on this? Such a waste of time. So they have thousands of topics to talk about. Why? Because all those topics don't give any satisfaction to them. So they have to keep searching. Oh, this I talked about, but now it is over. Now I have to find something new to talk about. Something new to talk about. Something new to talk about. And hence they are like never satisfied. But on the other hand, devotees of Krishna, just Krishna. And how much can you talk about Krishna? Unlimited. You can just keep talking, and every time you talk about, satisfaction from the heart. Okay, there's a okay. So Prabhupada in the purport talks about Grahastha and Grahamedi, right? So this verse actually says that those who are attached to house and everything related to the house, they have the apashyatam. Apashyatam means they are blind to self-realization. So Prabhupada is talking how Grahastha ashram means one who is actually living for realizing the absolute truth. Right? You are living in a household with family, children, and all that, but you're actually living for realizing the ultimate truth. On the other hand, Graha Medi, they actually only live for the benefit of family members. And because they are just focused on how I can make myself and my extended family happy, because that is their focus, they are envious and jealous of everyone else. And I'm sorry I'm quoting this, but this is something that I've seen long time back, but it's just in my mind that is come. There's some product in India, now I don't even remember the product. It says, owner's pride, neighbor's envy. I don't know if you remember that. There's some ad in India long time back. But they say that you get this product, and what happens? Owner will become pride, and neighbor will become envy. And that is basically this whole concept of like, if you are actually just focused on Graha Medi, that, I want to become happy, my extended family have to become happy, that will only result in enviousness of another person. That person has a better car than me. That person has this, I don't have it, so now I have to get, right? So that envious nature. So Prabhupada talks about that. And then he says that how there's so many subject matter. We talk about politics, scientific, social, economics, all these different subject matters are there. Right? So what happens? What happens when we actually just talk about Krishna, right? So see, it is either two. Either we are talking about Maya related topics or Krishna related topics, right? So if you are Atma Tattva, then you are talking about Krishna related topics, right? So if you are talking about Maya related topics, then anything other than Krishna, then Maya actually has this potency called Avaranatmika Shakti. Avaranatmika Shakti. That actually means the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. So Maya has two potencies. One is Prakshepatmika Shakti and Avaranatmika Shakti. So Prakshepatmika Shakti is basically throwing the living entities into the material world, and Avaranatmika Shakti is like covering the knowledge of the living entity. So if we are not taking shelter of Krishna, then we are under Maya's influence. And what is Maya's influence? She covers our real knowledge. So then we have so many different topics to talk about. So that is all because of Maya's receipt. And only spiritual sound vibration can actually pierce through this covering of Maya Shakti. Okay, so Prabhupada concludes by saying that one should not therefore, last sentence, become a Grihamaidi simply to exist for envying others. Don't exist for envying others. One should become a real householder in terms of scripture injunctions. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also makes a point that what does it mean that Griha Medhina, right? So Medhi actually means violence. Violence. So what is Griha Medhina? Everyone who's actually doing 5 kinds of violence at home. What are the 5 kinds of sinful activities you do at home? So this actually explains that even at home, if you're just collecting water, or if you are like grinding food, grinding grains, or if you're just sweeping the floor, or you're igniting fire, or if you're just walking on the street, in all these 5 different activities that any grahastha does, then he naturally is actually causing so much, suffering to other living entities. Like you are actually, let's say, walking on the street, you are actually killing so many living entities. So all those 5 activities, you are actually harming other living entities. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Griha Medina, Medhi means either you're creating violence to Krishna. Why? I mean, violence to all living entities. Why? Because you are apashyatam atma tattva, because you are blind to self-realization. Okay. Okay. Any comments? Anyone wants to add any point to this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
As you mentioned, like the questions itself is beneficial. So even we repeat the question and pronounce it, it is beneficial. So we've seen Bhagavad Gita also 8.1, Kim Tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma, Purushottamam. That verse itself, you just for asking sake, you are saying that, but it gives the benefit also.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that reference. 8.1. Arjun asked, right? In 8.1 all these, please explain these 6 items, and then finally he says, like, how can one remember the item? Anyone else? Any points?
Prabhuji, I was thinking that during the Govardhan retreat, Ratnaradhika Mataji asked His Holiness Sachidananda Swami Maharaj a question, and Maharaj said, your question is very glorious because you have it's very nice because you have used the word Krishna so many times in that question. So if we hear a class and then the name of God is there so many times, that then that class itself becomes nectaria. Otherwise, when people forward their classes about this impersonalism and that, and I'm thinking there was no name of Krishna in this talk. So it was just a useless talk.
It's very interesting you give that reference. Actually, one of the lectures Prabhupada gives, I think, on this verse or the verse after this, in these first 3 verses, if you hear Prabhupada lecture, he talks about this point. Why these questions are so glorious? He says because they talk about Krishna. And he actually refers, even at that time, like he refers to, like, there was some news article about the Hare Krishna movement. And he says, well, in the news article, how many times they actually had the word Krishna? That is our success. Irrespective of what they are saying, even if they are criticizing Hare Krishna movement, but if they are saying Krishna, 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 that article is actually more beneficial because Prabhupada said everyone is forced to hear the word Krishna, and hence everyone will get the benefit. So it's
I
actually-
also heard Prabhuji when Prabhupada has written some articles and was brought to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He also said, "Oh, I don't need to read as long as the name of Krishna is mentioned so many times. It's ready to be published."
With Prabhupada, like when Bhaktivinoda Thakur read Prabhupada's article, he says, whatever he writes, just publish. Because Bhaktivinoda knew this is our dear Prabhupada. So text number 3. Let's go.
Nidrayariyate naktam vyavayena cha vavayah divacharte haya rajam kutumba bharanena va.
Hare Krishna. The lifetime of such an envious householder is passed at night either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. Hare Krishna.
So one way you can say text number 2 is what are materialists absorbed in. Absorption, right? This text number 3 is what is their activities. Absorption and what is their activities, right? So it says nidraya. Nidraya means sleeping, right? Nidraya. And then he says vyavayena. And naktam. Naktam means night. So in the night, what do? They waste their time by either nidraya or vyavayena. They engage either in sex or sleeping. So in that way, riyate, they waste their night. What about daytime? Daytime, what do? Again, riyate. They waste by what? Again, 2 things. One is artha ihaya, economic development, or kudumba bharenava. Kutumba bharena means actually maintaining the family. So at daytime, they are just so much busy in economic development or maintenance of the family, and in way their daytime is actually wasted. And then vayaya, in that way, the entire duration of life is actually finished. And so this is basically a description. Prabhupada says the present human civilization is primarily based on the principles of sleeping, sex indulgence at night, and earning money in the day and spending the same for family maintenance. So this is basically our current human civilization. That's what everyone is doing. Right? Work so hard during the day, earn money. What for? Go to Amazon.com, buy. 2-hour delivery, 1-hour delivery, 15 minutes delivery. And that's what is the whole world going on. Work so hard and spend it, right? And nighttime, sleep or sex. And that's why whole lifetime is wasted. Right? So Prabhupada says that how the process of Vedic knowledge, so our human life is a combination of matter and spirit. And the whole purpose of Vedic knowledge is to actually liberate the spirit soul from the contamination of matter. But unfortunately, the whole material civilization is just engaged in these activities of passion and ignorance, and no one is concerned about Atma Tattva, right? Understanding who we are, what is our purpose of existence, why am I here? No one is actually concerned about all these things. And hence, they simply waste their entire human form of life. Okay? So the materialist way of life is described here in a nutshell. How foolishly men waste the boon of human life is described. Text number 4.
Dehapatya kalatradishu atma sanyeshvasat vapi tesham pramato nidhanam pashyan api na pashyati.
Translation: persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction.
So here further, so first one was absorption, second one was action, third is awareness. So 3 A's that we can say. So here it says Deha referring to body, Apatya children, Kalatra wife, Adishu, and everything in relationship to them. Right? And then it says Sainyeshu, fighting soldiers. Why are these all fighting soldiers and Asatsu, fallible soldiers? Okay? Then pramata here means to attach, or also means madness. Pramata means madness. Pashan api na pashyati. So this last line. So if you see in text number 3, it says, sorry, text number 2, right? Yeah, text number 2 actually says, apashyatam atma tattva. Apashyatam means they do not see the atma tattva, right? The purpose of human form of life, right? Here, pasyan api na pashyati. Pasyan api na pashyati means in spite of having so much experience, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Pasyan api na pashyati. So this can be explained like we see, was a perfect example in first canto about this. Pasyan api na pashyati. Yeah.
Is it Dhritarashtra? Like
Dhritarashtra, yeah. Pasyan api na pashyati. Vidura is actually going and saying that don't you see how time has actually overcome you? Your sons, your grandsons, your parents, everyone is dead. But you are thinking you will live forever. And he says, alas, how strong is the hope for living for all living beings. That in spite of seeing that everyone is dying next to them, they will think that, oh, I have a long time. I will live forever. So I read this recently that how 72% of the people, they die even without writing a will. Why? Because they think that, oh, that will not come to me. I have a long time. So pasyan api na pashyati. So in spite of experiencing all these things, they think that will not come to me. And then what? It says saineshu, right? Asatsu saineshu. And then even if they see that, okay, that is there, but who is there to protect me? Who are my soldiers to protect me? Deha, apatya, kalatra, adishu. So yes, even if that comes, it's okay. My body is strong, it will hold on. I will live forever. Or my children will protect me, my wife will protect me. They all will protect me. Right? What does Narad Muni say to Yudhishthir Maharaj after that entire Vidura, Dhritarashtra, after Dhritarashtra leaves? Narad Muni comes and tells Yudhishthir Maharaj, he says, you are thinking that you are actually providing and protecting Dhritarashtra, but don't you see, everyone is under the influence of Kala, Karma, and Guna. So those who are already on the mouth of a serpent, what can they save others? Everyone is under the influence of Kala, Karma, and Guna. So we are all going to leave. So what can we actually say? How can we say that, oh, someone else will protect me? Everyone is under this influence of the time. Right? It's just like I was thinking of this example, like, how there was tsunami, right? When there's tsunami, it's like the waves come like hundreds of feet high, and they just like wipe out the whole city. Right? So imagine standing on the beach, and you're seeing such a wave coming, and you're seeing people in front of you are being killed. But still, you're hoping that, oh, no. Yes, they are being killed, but I will actually suffer. Time comes just like that. It is actually coming like the tsunami wave. But we are thinking, okay, somehow I will escape. And Prabhupada also points out in the purport, he says it's just like relatives are like floating bubbles in that wave. So waves are coming, and you see a bubble and say like, oh, somehow I'll find shelter within that bubble. But what point is it, right? No one can escape this. Another example, I've given this before, is that, if you're traveling on a plane, right, and all of a sudden there's turbulence, and then, maybe the captain announces, oh, sorry, there's turbulence, the plane is going to crash. What do? If your relatives are sitting next to you, you'll be like, okay, catch hold the hand. We will protect each other, right? Or we'll hold the seat in front of us and just say, okay, now we'll protect. But don't you see the whole plane is going down? Who can protect you? Neither the captain can protect you, nor the crew members can protect you. No one can protect you. The only person who can protect you is who? Krishna. Right? So those who are actually apashyatam atmatattvam, they are pashyanapi na pashyati. They actually think that all these other, my body, my children, my wife will protect me, but actually none of them will protect me. You know the story of that the rich king with 4 wives? Yeah, some of you know that story. Everyone knows the story? No? Okay. So there's a king, he has 4 wives, right? So the first wife, he actually takes care of that wife very nicely. Always like focusing on like buying new ornaments, decorating her, taking good clothes, everything, right? So first, the fourth wife is like, full. Then third wife, he actually is very proud of the third wife, and he actually shows others, see my third wife, she's so great, right? Third wife. Second wife is actually like whenever he has problems, he goes to a second wife, and the second wife hears and says, okay, she's actually empathetic. So second wife. And the first wife is actually the king just ignores. She's not so good, she's not so beautiful, I don't care for her. So 4 wives. At the time of death, when king realizes, okay, now death is coming, then he goes to the 4th wife, because she's like so cared for and so Krishna. Like that king actually spent everything for that 4th wife and decorated her, best jewelry, everything. And he told the 4th wife, okay, now I'm going to die. Can you please come with me? I don't want to die alone. Please come with me. What? I'm not going to come with you. You die alone. The king was shocked. What? Everything I did for you, and now you're just kicking me away? She just walked away. I don't care. Then 3rd wife, he said, okay, 3rd wife, you please help me. 3rd wife said, no, after you die, I'll marry someone else. Next marriage, I don't care. Then 2nd wife, he says, 2nd wife, okay, at least you please come with me. And then 2nd wife says, the best I can do is I'll walk you to your grave. That's it. Uske baad, it's all you. And he said, like, what? All these 3, I actually served them so much. None of them are going to come with me. And then the 4th wife actually speaks. And she says, like, don't worry, I will come with you. I'm always with you. And then the king notices that this 4th wife, she's willing to come with me, but I never cared for her. She's actually, so thin, and she's not cared for, and I never did anything for her, but she is always with me. Right? So what are these 4 wives? The 4th wife is basically the body. Right? 4th wife is the body. We do so much for our body, but the body is going to leave us. Right? 3rd wife is what? Our property, our wealth, our opulence, and we show to others, oh, see how much I have. But will it come? She said, no, I'll marry someone else. We die, our property will go to someone else. Right? 2nd wife is who? 2nd wife are relatives, friends. Right? So they'll say, okay, up to the grave I will come. That's it. Uske baad is all you. Right? And then the 1st wife is actually our spirit soul or our spiritual achievement. The only thing that we can carry with us is actually our spiritual achievements. That's it. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Right? So anyway, this story that's often said. So Prabhupada in the purport is like so heavy, It says like the entire life is actually a fight against death. Entire life is a fight against death. And who are the soldiers we take shelter of? This Deha, Patra, Kaladasheshu. So we take shelter of this. The material world is called a world of death. So then Prabhupada says like how this valuable energy of this human form of life is actually simply spent, right? Vain search after permanent living conditions, which are actually impossible. So entire energy we actually spend so that we can live forever. Right? How much money is actually spent into what's that called? Like anti-aging products, right? But what is that? Everyone is going to die, right? And then Prabhupada says this is decoration of the dead body. And all the energy is simply spent on decorating the dead body. That's it. Prabhupada is very heavy on this part, but it really is like kind of waking us up. This material world is a dream. We are just tossed by the waves of time, and all the living conditions are simply like foaming bubbles in the ocean, and everything is going to die. Okay. Yeah, so Prabhupada says in the last paragraph, the whole material advancement of human civilization is like the decoration of a dead body. Everyone is a dead body flapping only for a few days, and yet all the energy of human life is being wasted decorating the dead body. Okay, so let's see the time. Okay, we can do one more verse. We'll come. So 3 negatives. So one is absorption, one is activities, one is awareness. All these 3, A. Right? This is all negative. What one should not hear about, what one should not chant, what one should not remember. Because all these 3 are just going to be a cause of our destruction. Okay. Now let's see what one should actually hear about. So we'll end with this, text 5.
Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavya Kirtatavyascha Smartavyaschetata Bhayam.
Who's next?
Saravitu. O descendant, I can read it. O descendant of King Bharata, one who
Sorry, Mataji, I had a
Okay, go.
yes. Text 5. O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries, must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller and savior from all miseries.
So now is a positive. So 3 verses saying what one should not hear about, and he concluded by what? Pashan api na pashyati. That even though they see, they don't see. Right? And I'm going to mention this point that how we see is not so much our eyes we see with knowledge. Right? We see with knowledge. Like anything we see, if we have knowledge about it, then we can say, oh, what is this? Otherwise, it doesn't have any importance to us. So we see with knowledge. So when we see with Atma Tattva, with knowledge about our spirit self, about Krishna, then we see more than what we are actually seeing. Why? Because Krishna is actually revealing in the heart. So we see a situation and we see the deeper points of how we can actually see that situation as a connection to Krishna. Now, Tasmad, here it says, for this reason, because all these 3, these AAA are only a waste of time, result in our destruction, it's just simply of no value. Therefore, for this reason, one should Bharat Sarvatma, or descendant of Bharata, one should actually Sarvatma, Bhagavan, Ishvara, Hari. So 4 words are actually used, right? He's actually talking about 4 Sarvatma, Bhagavan, Ishvara, Hari. Right? And then Shrotavya, Kirtavya, Smartavya, Cha, Ichchata, Bhayam. Right? So Shrotavya means what? To be here. Kirtavya means to actually chant. Smartavya, remember. Ichchata, one who actually desires to become free from abhaya, free from fear. Okay, so Prabhupada actually says, Ichchata, one who desires abhayam, freedom. Prabhupada says freedom. Okay. So bhaya actually also means fear, right? So Ichchata, abhayam means to become free from fear. So let's discuss this. So here he is conclusively making the point that one should hear about, glorify, and remember who? Lord Hari. Okay. Now Lord Hari, why is he described with 3 different words? Sarvatma, Bhagavan, and Ishvara. This is actually beautiful explanation. So Chakravarti Pad actually gives that this Sarvatma, Bhagavan, and Ishvara is actually referring to 3 different kinds of bhaktis. And here Sukdev Goswami is concluding that all these 3 kinds of bhaktis, they should actually hear, chant, and worship only Hari, Krishna. Okay. So what is the first one? Sarvatma. Sarvatma means Paramatma, right? So one who is actually desiring liberation from this material existence and who wants freedom from fear, the Abhayam referring to fear, that person should actually hear, chant, and worship Krishna, Hari. Right? So first one, Sarvatma. Sarvatma is for those who are actually desiring liberation, like how in 7th chapter, text 28, Krishna is talking about those who desire liberation from material existence. That is Sarvatma. Second is Bhagavan. Right? Bhagavan refers to what? Nanda Krishna. Yeshwara Nandana Krishna. Bhagavan refers to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So Hari is referred to as Bhagavan. This is basically for the Raganuga Bhakti, those who are Raganuga Bhakti. So first one is the devotees who are actually aspiring for liberation. Second one is actually devotees who are on the path of Raganuga Bhakti. And that is word Abhayam. Abhayam means greedy. Another explanation that Chakravarti Path is giving is that persons who are greedy for Krishna, greedy to become fixed in their devotion to Krishna, they actually have to hear about Bhagavan, Nanda Krishna, Yashodananda Krishna. They should hear about that. Right? So those who want liberation, they should hear about what? Paramatma. Those who are Raganuga Bhaktas, they should hear about what? Nanda Krishna. And then third one, Ishvara. Ishvara referring to those who are on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, because Ishvara means controller, right? So they should actually, those who are on this path of Vaidhi Bhakti, they should hear about how Krishna is the controller of this entire material universe, right? And how Krishna is the cause of fearlessness in every living entity. Right? So they should actually hear about Krishna as Ishvara, as the supreme controller. Okay. So how it's so beautiful that all these, three different kinds of bhaktas, Krishna is saying all of them should actually hear about Krishna, but different aspects of Krishna. The sadhaka bhakti, sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti, Raganuga bhakti, and those who are actually aspiring for liberation. And everyone should hear, chant, and remember only about Hari, Krishna. Okay, this is okay, this verse. The three different things. Okay. Now, if you see fear, if you take the aspect of fear also, it's very beautiful. Akuto bhayam, right? Bhaya means fear. Right? Akuto bhayam means to become fearlessness. Right? Now, initially, what is the fear? The fear is of our material existence. No one wants to die. So the fear is the main fear that everyone has is something will happen and I will leave my body. That's the fear. Now, as we progress in our bhakti, when we come to sadhana bhakti, what is our fear? I mentioned this last time. Anyone knows?
Losing association of devotees, service to God.
Yes. So initially, the fear is a fear of our life, fear of material existence. But as we progress in bhakti, then the fear is that of losing the association of devotee, or fear of offending a devotee. Right? So that is the fear. Now further, and we see how Parikshit Maharaj actually goes through his journey. It's very beautiful. Parikshit Maharaj anyway is an advanced devotee, but in the 10th canto, it is described that how Parikshit Maharaj, when that Putana episode is described, then Parikshit Maharaj's fear is what? He is fearing for the protection of Krishna. So you see how the fear itself progresses. That is actually a verse where Parikshit Maharaj is actually thinking, oh, Putana is going to come and Krishna is just a small baby. What will happen to Krishna? And his fear is about Krishna's protection. Right? So even that fear is actually progressing through different levels. Okay. So Prabhupada in the purport says to actually, okay, another very important point is that here. So Prabhupada says those who desire freedom from this vicious cycle of miseries, they should actually execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He quotes Bhagavad Gita 9:27. Which is that verse? 9:27.
Yat karoshi, yarashnashi.
Yes, yat karoshi, yadasasni, yadjuhosi, darasiyat, yat tapasya konse, tat kurusva mad arpanam. So Krishna is saying, if you really want freedom from all the miseries, then you do everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, how can we actually do that? That is the question. Like, often people are, well, I have 9-to-5 job, I have to take care of my family, I have to take care of children. How can I do that for Krishna? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha. Right? So Krishna is telling Arjuna that you actually fight, but sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, what do? Mam anusmara. You actually remember me. Now, how can we develop that remembrance of Krishna? How can we do everything keeping, yes, Yat Karoshi Asana, everything for Krishna. Prabhupada is clearly giving the formula here. Right? First point, it says, when one has, okay, you can write this down, it's so important. First one, perfectly and scrutinizingly heard. First thing one has to do is perfectly and scrutinizingly hear Krishna Katha. Right? Not just whimsically, not that hearing Katha and like absorbed in so many things, but you have to perfectly and scrutinizing hear what is the speaker saying, what is this point, what have questions, scrutinizing what to hear. Right? First thing. Second point, Prabhupada is making a point. He's saying after hearing what one should do, one must glorify his acts and deeds. So after that proper Shravanam, where one is doing perfectly and scrutinizing, then one has to do Kirtanam. Kirtanam of what? His acts and his deeds. And thus, when we do these two, then we can actually remember Krishna constantly. Right? We have to do these two, and then we remember Krishna constantly. So when we talk of Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha, right? Always remember Krishna. How will that remembrance then? Only when there is proper Shravanam and Kirtan. I quickly want to show you one verse. Let me share my screen and end with this one last point. Okay, you all can see my screen? Yes. Okay, so in Nectar of Instruction, text number 8, Rupa Goswami is actually making this point. Tan nama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtanano Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja. And he says this is the essence of all the advice, is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, form, qualities, or pastimes, and therefore engaging one's tongue and mind. Now, in the purport, So it says, in the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasa. Right? Shravana Dasa. The stage of hearing. By constant hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain the stage of acceptance, called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha. And then, when one is able to chant in ecstasy, that is actually Kirtana, he attains the stage of Smarana Vastha, the stage of remembering. Right? So, this Varana Dasa means acceptance, and that includes that aspect of Kirtana. Then comes the stage of Smarana Vastha, where there is actually Shravanam. Shravanam is, Smaranam, remembrance of the Lord. And that remembrance is of different kinds: recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, trance. So different stages. But that remembrance, that smaranam of Krishna, right? Krishna actually says that, that at the end of your life, one who thinks about me will come to me. That smaranam can come only when there is constant hearing Krishna Katha, and then there is Varanatsa, where is constant speaking of Krishna Katha. Only when these two things are there, then there can be a question of constant smarana, or remembrance of the Supreme Personality of God. So Prabhupada clearly says that thus it will become possible to remember constantly. Okay? And Prabhupada also says, when we hear and glorify, then one will always be with Krishna. And when we are with Krishna, there is no question of any fear in this material world. One more excellent point, Prabhupada says, the Lord invites the association of all in this creation. Okay. So thus, by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites the association of all in this creation. So when we are actually hearing and glorifying Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam, Evam Yoveti Tattva, Dokta Deham Punajanma, Naiti Mam Eti. So right? So Prabhupada is saying that when we are hearing and chanting about Krishna, that is an invitation from Krishna that please come back to me. So we are just accepting the invitation of Krishna by constantly hearing and chanting. A very nice point. We can, even in this material world, when we receive an invitation from an important person, or there is this elite assembly, and you have received a personal invitation from so-and-so, we feel so proud. Oh, they consider me so important that they are personally inviting me. I am so special. Now, what to talk about receiving an invitation from Krishna himself? So when Krishna is coming, showing all these pastimes and all these devotees are speaking about Krishna, it is an invitation from Krishna saying that, please come back to me. So we just have to accept that invitation, and we can go back home. Okay. So that's basically this. So we'll stop here. Let's see any quick comments, and we'll go on to our presentations. Right. So today we started off with a quick overview of Canto 1. Right. We did the overview of Canto 2. Then we covered the first 5 verses of Canto 2. And we started off by Sukadeva Goswami glorifying the question itself. As a question is so wonderful. Right. And then in 3 verses, he's saying what one should not do, what one should not remember, what one should not chant. And then in the 5th verse, conclusively, he's saying, Tasmad, right? Therefore, one should hear about, chant, and one should remember only who? The Supreme Personality of Hari, and he is known as Sarvatma, he is known as Bhagavan, he is known as Ishvara. Whether you're a Sadhaka Bhakta, whether you're Ragano Bhakta, or you're desiring liberation, in all circumstances, just hear, remember, chant about Hari, the Supreme Personality of God. Okay? Any comments? Any points that you'd like to quickly mention?
Yeah, a quick question. You were talking about the fears, right? Different fears. And the first fear, you said that the fear of death, of material existence. Does probably the fear from Maya also comes into this category? Because Maya is Krishna's energy, and it Muyanti Yat Surya, it even bewilders the demigods, right? So we should be fearful about Maya, but you gave the solution is hear Krishna Katha and glorify Krishna Kirtan. So that's
fearful of Maya is second category.
Okay.
For sadhaka, because like for materialists, they are fearful of death, but they do not even know that how Maya is actually covering their knowledge, how their knowledge is covered by illusion. Second stage, when we are sadhakas, then we should fear Maya and say that, oh, Maya is so strong. Hence, every moment, Devi Esha Gudamami, Mama Maya Duratma, every moment I have to take shelter of Krishna. Every moment I have to be. So 2 things we talk about, right? We have to be cautious of Maya and conscious of Krishna. Right? We talked about this before. Conscious of Krishna, cautious of Maya. So these 2. So that's second stage. Third stage, which is the highest, which Parikshit Maharaj is experiencing, is when a demon is attacking Krishna. Then he's fearful. Oh, Krishna, what will happen to Krishna? Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt here. Here it says that people are more attached to the wife, body, and children. But some people, I see that they may not be attached to wife and children, but they are attached to something else, or right. So they will come as a gruhame. These 2. I see so many people not even get married, right?
See, the point is, it says like body, everyone is attached to the body. Deha, right? And then if you don't have household life or something, then you have something else. There are Sahasra, we read, right? Sahasra, thousands of topics, but everything in relationship to the body. Everything. So even if they're unmarried, they may be still like, they're not brahmacharis for sure. They may have in other relationships, or in their mind, they may be developing attachment to so many other personalities. It's all related.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Okay. Any other points?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So when Sukadeva Goswami starts, he's starting with 4 things that should not be done. So I like that the way of his teaching, before you say what you shouldn't do, and then then you will be open to what we can do. I like.
It's a nice point. You can use that in your preaching. If you do these things, then this is the result. So better you do these things. Anything else?
Prabhuji, like Prabhupada used to say, my disciples are not enough fearful of the Maya. That's why they are not taking Krishna consciousness very seriously. So what Mataji was saying and the fear point which you're mentioning, so it really applies. We have to be like every day in the life also, it is like sufficient fear is the favorable fear is important in our life so that we can take the right decision in our life and take shelter of Krishna.
That's a very important point. Yes, it actually comes in that episode of Devaki and Kamsa. So Prabhupada elaborates on that purport and how we have to be fearful of material things. Okay. Anything else?
I like the point about we need to both hear and chant in order to remember Krishna constantly. And I was thinking when we practice, like when we hear this knowledge and then we practice sharing it with others, that's when it actually solidifies in our own heart. Like if we just hear, but we don't practice also speaking it, then it's not complete. Well, but that's a nice point.
Excellent point, actually. Especially our group, like when you meet at a temple or when you see each other, we should actually share. Oh, what is the point we heard today? What is the Bhagavatam point I'm reading this week? Share, because without that, where is the question of Smaranam? So next time we see each other in person, please, first thing you say is what you have heard or what you like in Bhagavatam or something. Right? So start the conversation with that thing. So that will create the right culture. Okay. Okay, so let's stop. We have presentation. So we'll take a break, come back at 8:55, and then we'll hear the remaining 4 chapters. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please come back. And let's do our final presentations for the last 4 chapters of Canto 1. So we start off with Mohana Prabhu and Lavamani Mati, chapter 16. So do you have a PowerPoint? No? Okay.
No problem. We'll just.
No, we will just.
All right.
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm just praying to Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, our Siksha Guru, and to all Vaishnavas. And please forgive any of offenses or anything wrong which I'm saying here. So I will just tell whatever I learned from this chapter or whatever we heard while on the class. I'm going to just give the little summary, and Prabhu is going to give the analogies or whatever the lessons from the purports we had to learn. Yeah. So in the 15th chapter, we heard that how Pandavas retired and how they gave kingdom to the Parikshit Maharaj and all that we heard. So in the 16th chapter, we will hear about how Parikshit Maharaj ruled his kingdom and how he received the Kali, all that discussions between the Dhara and Dharani, all that we can hear and understand in this chapter. So here Sutta Goswami starts that after Pandavas retired, Parikshit Maharaj was ruling the kingdom like very beautifully and like however the Brahmanas guessed before, however they spoke. So he was ruling very nicely and no problems and everything is good. And he married Airavati, and he has 4 sons headed by Janamejaya, and then he did 3 horse sacrifices, and he conquered all over the world. He was everything is flourishing and everybody is happy. And then one time he sees that and one time he heard that he sees that Kali entered his kingdom. Then he immediately takes out his bow and goes on his chariot. Then we heard the description of his chariot, like 4 black horses, and his flag is decorated with lion, and a comparison of white horses for Arjuna and Hanuman for his flag. And then he goes there and then he punishes Kali who dressed as a king and hurting a cow and bull, and then he punishes them. Then Suta Goswami and the sages all wants to know more about that story, why he just punished instead of killing the Kali, because they always want to hear more about Krishna. If there are because if there is if it's not related to Krishna, they are not interested in it. And then we heard the beautiful sloka, Atavashya Padamboja sloka. They want to always hear about Krishna, but lazy people, they think like how we heard in today's class, they want to discuss about all other topics which are not related to Krishna. But all the sages, they are all want to hear about only about Krishna only. So they ask those questions. Then Suta Goswami starts that once he was when he was ruling the world, he goes on looking over his kingdom, and then one time he's looking over his kingdom, and then he sees that one cow, a Dhara and Dharani, and cow and bull, which is the symbol of Dharma. Bull was with 3 legs, with 1 leg only. Cow is like very weak and not happy. So they were discussing, and then he sees that, and then there are several questions. Then he hears what they are discussing, and Dhara asks the Dharani, why you're so dull? Is your family is far, or are you thinking about my situation because I lost 3 legs, or any unhappy woman because the women and children are not happy here, or people are engaged in sleeping, not doing spiritual activities, so he asks so many questions. And then Dhara answers, Dharani answers those questions, saying that not only me, I will tell you answers to all these questions, not only me unhappy, but you also see once you are maintained with 4 legs. When Krishna was staying came to our Bhuloka, and he protected me, and also he protected me by killing all the bad kings who are puffed up, and also by establishing dharma, he protected you. Now he left, that's why I'm unhappy. Even Lakshmi ji doesn't know sometimes, because he goes to protect the devotees. She doesn't know, but I know it when Krishna came, because he's walking on earth, so his footsteps are here. So I know it. So I'm bereft of that. When Krishna left, Kali entered, and all these bad symptoms, bad things are happening. So Dharani says all these things, and then Parikshit Maharaj came to the Saraswati river. So that's what happened in this chapter. Yeah. Please forgive if anything wrong. Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please allow all the Vaishnavas to speak about Krishna and his devotees. So in this chapter, there are note down some of the points that Prabhupada is stressing out. So the first point is, even Maharaj Parikshit is a great devotee, but he took the shelter of Kripacharya as a spiritual master. So Prabhupada speaks about the importance of taking a spiritual master and going to the shelter of the spiritual master. And in many cases, like in Vyasadeva, we see that he has a spiritual master as a Narada Muni. And in case of in Krishna himself, when he comes to show everyone that what is the importance of the spiritual master, he goes to Sandipani Muni. So just to set an example, Maharaj Parikshit also took the shelter of a spiritual master, and also he has the great assembly of sages and brahmanas. So Prabhupada speaks there that how important is to take the counseling from brahmanas, and who are well-wishers of the society. And he also mentions that you are getting a good advice with no cost. But Parikshit Maharaj is not going to exploit those Brahmanas, but still he is going to give the charity to them. But the importance over there is they are all the people who are giving advice to the others. They are also inclined for the benefit of others. So, but Prabhupada talks about the contrast over here, like the current generation, where nobody knows what's doing. So he chastises heavily on the current political system. And then and when the next one is the king was there to execute the will of the Lord. So that's one of the points that Prabhupada stressed out. And now the current representatives are not, they don't even have the concept of God, and they're more of atheists. When the fools are selecting another fool to rule the country. So he heavily gives the importance that that spiritual knowledge for everyone is an important thing. And then the next one, he also talks about the two main stresses out on the two things: Brahminical culture and protection of cows and bulls. So the milk contains he also mentions there that the milk contains the necessary brain tissues. It nourishes brain tissues to have realize of the spiritual knowledge that we are reading. That's so it helps us to realize all our knowledge. So, and then the next topic he talks about, when just like Parikshit Maharaj was ruling, he got his kingdom from his forefathers, how seriously he was taking care of the kingdom. So just like that, the one lesson that we all I think took down is we need to work that seriousness, give that seriousness when we are having that services, and then servicing to Krishna. It's not just, don't take it as a granted, but give our full effort and show our devotion into that service. That's one point we liked about. And as today we discussed about, there are thousands and thousands of topics that the people are interested. Interestingly, Srimad Bhagavatam also talks about those topics of the sociology, politics, economics, cultural affairs, but these are all related to Krishna. So reading Srimad Bhagavatam is so satisfying, because even whatever the desire that the other the devotees have and the people have, since they are relishing the topics of Krishna, they are all satisfying. And the devotees are always accustomed to lick the high name of the lotus feet, which is an important sloka, like Lavang Manjari brought it up. So the Atavasya Padamboja Makaranda Liham Satam Kim Anair Asad Alapair Aishoyad Asad Vyaha. So devotees are interested in taking the honey and the topics that are related to Krishna only, and they are not interested in any other topics. And then he also brings the points like just one more example, that there are so many other topics related to other than material things, like the Battle of Kurukshetra is all of full of politics and diplomacy, but since these are connected to Krishna, these they're all adored by the whole complete world. And devotees are so intelligent that for the benefit of everyone, they try to invite Yamaraja, who is the killer of who takes care of the punishment of people. So for the benefit of everyone, they say that if we invite Yamaraja, then there is no need for dying, and then we can listen Srimad Bhagavatam uninterruptedly. That's one point that I really like. And there are a couple of analogies that I liked in this one. So one is the when cloud collects all the water, but then it gives them back to the whole world in terms of rain. Just like that, just like that, Parikshit Maharaj also collected taxes, but in while giving the charity, he showered like a rain that was they gave the water that are more than sufficient to all the citizens. And another analogy that I liked is in the rainy season, the rain is rain is presented, yet people. Oh, okay. When the rainy season comes, people are take precautions, like for as a for getting an umbrella or something. But in the age, just like that, in the age of Kali, we know that this age of Kali is degraded, but still, we have to take our protection. Have to be fearful of those things and take precautions for them. Yeah, and one more thing that we liked in this one, Prabhupada describes the contrary between the ceremonies that were conducted at that time and the current age. Like when Maharaj Parikshit was, he was welcomed in everyone. They were glorifying Parikshit Maharaj in connection with Krishna. So he was very much satisfied, and he gave charity profusely, charity to everyone. But in current age, these the glorifications were not real. They are just like flattery things. And by the next one is by the grace of Lord, each and every planet is carefully equipped. The one point that in Prabhupada says that every universe is well equipped on its own. But the scientists are going out of this world and then searching for something else which is not real and which is not been useful. So he glorifies the creation over there. And
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, one more minute, Prabhu. Can you wrap?
Yes, bro. Yes. I'm almost done. So, and then one more last thing, Prabhupada also brings a point that there is so much glorification to be done for the Lord. So even if somebody can count all the atoms and was able to count the snowflakes and everything, but still that glorification it will not be complete. Anand, as we all know, that Anand Sesh is started glorifying, but he has not ended his glorification. So Prabhupada brings up the point. And the last one is Prabhupada's. I read in some different scripture, in different lectures, but when demigods descend onto this earth planet, they don't stay on they like 6 inches away to the and they don't put their feet on the floor on the earth. But Krishna is so merciful that he Mother Earth was so much happy that all his her body was printed with his footprints. So that was the point Prabhupada brings up. And thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu and Mataji. Nice summary. Thank you to both of you. Very well. Thank you. Next, chapter 17. So who is chapter 17 is
I have a PowerPoint to share. And Mataji, you're not able to speak, right? No. So Mataji has a sore throat, so she won't be able to speak. Hare Krishna, everybody. So we are doing chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali. So as we heard in chapter 16, Maharaj Parikshit is going around his kingdom and he is making sure everybody's following dharma. And while he's going, he's hearing the glories of his forefathers and the relationship with Krishna, and he's feeling very happy. And then there was a conversation between Dharma and Dharani. And when Parikshit, now chapter 17 starts when Maharaj Parikshit arrives on the scene, and he sees this low-class Shudra dressed like a king beating the cow and the bull with a club. And the bull is standing on one leg, urinating in fear, and the cow is trembling, weak, and hankering for grass. And Parikshit Maharaj sees this scene, so immediately calls out, "Who are you? You appear to be so strong, and you appear to be a king, but you're beating helpless creatures in my kingdom. How dare you do this? And just because you think Krishna and Arjuna are not here, you can do such a thing?" Then he turns to the cow and the bull, and he asks the bull, "Who are you? What are you, some demigod causing distress? And never before in my kingdom has any person been aggrieved like this." And then he assures the cow, "Do not lament. I will take care of this. A king in whose state citizens are suffering, that king loses all their fame and all their potency and lifespan. So I'll definitely take care." So then he asks the bull, "So who did this to you?" He just wants to be sure, even though he sees that Shudra dressed like a king beating him. He wants the bull to identify who is the person who did this to him. Who has cut off your 3 legs? I need to punish this person. Even if this person is a demigod, I will take care of this person. It's a duty of a king to protect the pious and to take care of the impious. So then Dharma speaks, and he first of all says, your words are fitting of somebody who is a descendant of Arjuna and the Pandavas. And then he says an amazing statement: we don't know who causes our real suffering. Some people say it's our own self, Atma. Some people say it's Daivam, it's the planets, it's the planetary system. Some people say it's karma, our own activity. Some people say it's swabhavam, the material nature. And some people say that we can't ascertain it by just arguing and thinking about it. That's the Vaishnavas. They know that behind it is Krishna's plan, is behind everything. And we shouldn't just judge by the immediate instrument. And as soon as Parikshit Maharaj heard this, he knew this is not an ordinary bull. This is Dharma. So he answers, he says, "You are Dharma. You're speaking according to the principle that those who identify the perpetrator, they actually get involved in the karma. They actually attain the same destination as the perpetrator. In other words, if we identify the cause of our suffering, the immediate cause of our suffering, then we actually get implicated in the karma with that person." And then he goes on to say, actually, I can tell that your Dharma, and in Satya Yuga, your 4 legs were there: tapa, austerity; shocham, cleanliness; satyam, truthfulness; daya, mercy. And now, because of Kali, you're standing only on 1 leg, which is truthfulness. Your other 3 legs were broken by, because of pride, lust for women, intoxication. And in this way, he identifies that Dharma, the bull. Then he turns around and he chastises Kali, and he says, okay, he's about to kill Kali. So it goes to show that even if we don't identify the immediate perpetrator, we still have to, that's the internal attitude, but still we have to take care of the necessary actions. He's a king, so he has to do his duty. So he's about to kill Kali, and immediately Kali surrenders to Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj stops, and he smiles because he knows that this is not a real king, Kshatriya. And Kali, he says to Kali, "You don't need to be fearful since you surrendered. I won't kill you, but you're not allowed to stay here in my kingdom. And because wherever you are, it's just going to cause problems like greed, misfortune, treachery, cheating. You do not deserve to live in a place where Dharma is residing and where people are worshiping the Supreme Lord. So get out of here." And Kali is shaking in fear. And he says, "But everywhere I go, I'll just see you with bow and arrow in your hand. So please give me a place where I can stay." And Parikshit Maharaj says, "Okay, you can stay wherever there is intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, and meat eating." And Kali asked for a 5th place to stay because he said, "In your kingdom, I don't see any of those things." So Parikshit Maharaj says, "Okay, you can stay in a place where gold is being hoarded, because wherever there is an unnecessary accumulation of wealth, it gives rise to, falsity, greed, and lust, and people use those things usually for sinful activities because they're not using the wealth in Krishna's service." So Kali is happy, and he gets his 5 places. And then, so here's the picture of the 5 places where Kali can reside. And then Sutta Goswami gives a cautionary statement to the sages of Naimisharanya, and he says, we should be very careful about these 5 places, because especially if you're a leader in society, like a religionist, public leader, brahmana, sannyasi, because these if you're desiring your spiritual well-being, these 5 places can actually cause your downfall. So then Parikshit Maharaj reestablished the lost 3 legs of Dharma and improved the situation of the earth. And now he is ruling the world, Suta Goswami says. He's using the present tense because his influence of Parikshit Maharaj is still being seen. And he says, it's because of Parikshit Maharaj's influence that you all, the Shonaka Adi Rishis, are all able to perform this sacrifice. So in this way, Suta Goswami ends the chapter about Parikshit Maharaj. And so I wish Mataji could speak also, because we had a discussion about this. Like she was in India. She was we were discussing about this chapter. What are the points that we could discuss? And one of the points that we really wanted to focus on was the ultimate cause of everything is Krishna, and that we can't understand Krishna's plan. So it's just best to surrender to his plans. This is the point that Dharma made, that if you identify the perpetrator, then you also get involved. So the devotee's mood is that you see that nothing happens in our life without the sanction of Krishna. So every situation that comes, there's a reason for it. Krishna is trying to purify me. And you have the devotees have this mood of gratitude that I was meant to get so much more suffering, but Krishna is just giving me a small token just to increase my hankering for Krishna, my absorption in Krishna. And when we go through hard times, we can pray to Krishna to please reveal to us what we can learn from the situation. Because if we see in the situation, if somebody is causing us suffering, or if we identify the immediate cause of it, then we actually get implicated with that person or that situation. And we see the full picture of what's the real reason why I'm going through this. Why is Krishna putting me through this situation? And what can I learn from it? So that's the internal mood of a devotee. And like I said in the presentation, externally, the devotee still takes care of the required actions and still may need to take care of things. But if we have developed that internal mood, if we have cultivated that mood, then we'll be able to take the required action without vengeance, without blaming anybody, and just take care of the needful in that right consciousness. So that was something. And thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, and also Devanitha Mataji. Sorry that you have this throat problem. We pray that you recover soon. Miss hearing from you, but I see how Ratnadika kind of brought out your discussion, so that's very nice. Thank you so much. Okay, so next we'll move on to chapter number 18. Okay, so Vijayarathika Mataji, would you go first, or should I play that video of Arundhati Mataji first?
In any way you want, I can start and maybe. But Arundhati Mataji's is the summary, and mine is the reactions.
Okay, so we should start with summary then, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Arundhati Mataji is like on her way to India, so she shared her presentation. Sharing the screen.
Prabhuji, I have sent my presentation to you. You will play it, or I would be able to.
I'll make you co-host, Mataji, so you can share. That way you can also move the slides as you want. Why don't you start, Mataji? Right.
Sure. What can I share?
Yes, Mataji, you should
Share screen, right?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I want to do. Sorry. 1 second, Prabhuji. I'll stop sharing.
You can just click the button on the right bottom of full screen.
Right bottom.
You see on the right bottom near the where there's an option to zoom, like minus and plus sign.
Mhm.
The one left to that.
Oh, I wanted to start the slideshow. 1 second. Can I stop sharing and come back in a
Yeah,
second?
sure.
Sorry.
No problem.
Oh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare
Prabhuji, one suggestion, you can annotate, Prabhuji. So you can annotate so that you can draw a circle where there is a slideshow.
Yeah, I was doing it, but I thought I didn't know I had to share, so I'm slightly unprepared. Sorry.
Do you want me to share with you? Would it be easier?
Yeah, yes, if that's possible, then. Oh. Oh, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I got it. I can resume share now. Are you guys able? Are you
Yes.
able to see my
Yes.
screen? Hare Krishna, everyone. My humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, and all the Vaishnavas. Chapter Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18. Parikshit Maharaj cursed by a Brahmana boy. How to move to the second? Glorious death, Antakalepi Smaratam Tat Padambujam. Those who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions, even at the last moment of their lives. The highest perfection of life is attained by remembering the transcendental nature of the Lord at the last moment of one's life. For a common man, it's very difficult to remember things as they are at the time of death. But by the grace of the Lord and his bona fide devotees, the spiritual masters, one can get his opportunity without difficulty, as it was done in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. Kali Yuga's advantages. In this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. In other ages, simply by thinking of performing a sinful act, one used to become a victim of the act. On the contrary, a living being in this age is awarded with the results of pious acts simply by thinking of them. At the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that even though all nefarious activities of the personality of Kali are present, there is a great advantage in the age of Kali. One can attain salvation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Thus, Maharaj Parikshit made an organized effort to propagate the chanting of the Lord's holy name, and thus he saved the citizens from the clutches of Kali. It is for this advantage only that great sages sometimes wish for all good for the age of Kali. Power of chanting the holy names. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental, and therefore such chanting can at once purify one from the effects of all kind of previous sins. Association with the pure devotee is greater than the association with the Lord himself. Only a bhakta can give us bhakti, not even Krishna himself. The devotees of the Krishna have the ability to give us the seed of bhakti, Bhakti Lata Beej, because they have so much love for Krishna. By associating with them, we can also get that love for Krishna. The devotees are more merciful than Krishna. I took all these lines from Ratna Radhika Mataji, and thank you for that. The devotees, for this reason alone, Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Sudama the florist in Mathura, all pray to the Lord that whatever happens to them in their life, they will always have the opportunity to be in the association of the devotees of the Lord. Signs of a pure devotee, Narayana Parayana. A self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayana Parayana. Devotee is never afraid of any place or person. Heaven and hell are the same, as they both are creations of the Lord. For the devotee, nothing is more important than the Supreme Lord. In all conditions and in all circumstances, the devotee always remembers Narayana, as the devotee considers life and death as different conditions of existence created by the Lord. The devotee never goes against the will of the Lord. Anything sent by the Lord is a blessing for the devotee. Prasadabhuti. The six qualities of Krishna Katha: Param, supreme; Punyam, purifying; Ati Adbhuta, wonderful; Yoganishtam, full of bhakti yoga; Parikshitam, spoken to Maharaj Parikshit; Bhagavata Abhiramam, very dear to the pure devotees. The 6R formula to deal with the mystic. Reflection: anything that has happened, right or wrong, in our lives. Recognition: if we are humble, we recognize our mistakes. Repentance: why did I commit that mistake? Reconnection: reconnecting with Krishna. Responsibility: accept responsibility. What should I do to make it right? Rectification: what should I do to get rid of that habit, envy, anger, etc. And finally, the 6 A's of a successful spiritual life: to go back home to Godhead. Always aspire for attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and amicable, friendly relationship with all living beings. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. You brought out all the key points nicely. So, please stop.